Good morning. I'm the Reverend Ellen Quadgrass. I serve as one of the spiritual leaders here at South Church, and I am so glad to welcome you to this celebration of life for Carla Maxine McCabe, a service of recognition, of naming, of honoring Carla's unique and precious life. I'm grateful to be here with all of you, each of you connected in your own way to Carla, each of you carrying your own memories, your own stories, your own special something that you shared with her. Carla was a special person, mother, grandmother, sister, partner, friend, and so much more. Although I did not know her well, I've gleaned much from the stories I've heard from others. Like that Carla lived her life grounded in kindness and compassion, leading by example in her work and in her home. That Carla had a way of meeting others with both gentleness and conviction, of seeing what was unique in each person, and in that way, encouraging them to bring it forward. She lived a life of purpose. She was thoughtful and curious, smart and dedicated, with a warmth that welcomed others. And she carried a deep spiritual grounding that gave her life both steadiness and light. At this time, I would like to invite 4 of Carla's grandchildren, Bella Pellegrini Wong, Maxine Pellegrini, Ryan Webb, and Trevor Webb, to please come forward and light our chalice. While they come forward, I will name that the chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, a faith that became an important part of Carla's ever-deepening spiritual life. The lighting of the chalice reminds us to bring forward the best in ourselves and to honor the light we find in another. As the flame is lit, Bella will read the prayer that Carla herself had said so often.
I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings.
Thank you all. In a service like this, we lift up the beauty in someone we've loved, and we name the grief that is also real. What do we make of death, of loss, of the tender and sometimes wrenching goodbyes that living and loving ultimately always ask of us? What do we make of grief, that strange companion who shows up when loss is real? Sometimes it arrives quietly, almost beside us. Sometimes it catches us off guard. Sometimes it's heavy. Other times it seems to go almost unnoticed. Part of what makes grief so ineffable is that each loss touches those that came before, touches places still tender, reminding us our heart lives always at our center. Grief is real, even when someone has lived a long, good life, as Carla did, full of love and meaning. Even if someone's final years are touched by warmth of their partner, of family, of friends, of the delight of grandchildren, as Carla's final years were, as we note the sound of one of those grandchildren or great-grandchildren. Yeah, great-grandchildren. Grief is real even when a life has been full and had a gentle ending. When someone we love dies, it's like a piece of life's fabric tears. Some threads come loose. Some tie back quickly. Others mend in time as the work of the heart weaves them back into a new place. And sometimes in that presence to the layers of grief, to the whole, sometimes something softens. That heart work can be alchemical. Old stories gain fresh light. Others may start to fade, sometimes with grief and gratitude side by side, in the ache of it all, in the beauty of it all. Something blends or softens or melts. And here, gathered side by side with family, friends, community, this is a good place for that melting among all these threads and stories. Here in this space, hallowed by generations who have lost and grieved and honored and remembered and been comforted. Here, should the heart melt, should a tear fall, trust that it will be held. And here, too, it's good to remember that laughter comes also, that laughter is part of the honoring and the appreciation. And here, too, it is good to remember that although we may not be able to trace every stitch or turn or thread in someone's life, although we may never fully understand what shaped or moved another, what we can know is what remains in our hands. The love that was shared, the moments we carry, the mark a person leaves with us. Those strands endure. They are ours to keep. We grieve because we have loved and because we have been loved. And love, carried forward, is stronger than any ending. I would like to invite Ellen Joan Karras, Carla's daughter, forward to read some poems, a poem and some writings by Carla.
This is a poem by one of my mother's favorite poets, Mary Oliver, and it is actually titled Poem. So, the spirit likes to dress up like this: 10 fingers, 10 toes, shoulders, and all the rest. At night, in the black branches, in the morning, in the blue branches of the world. It could float, of course, but would rather plumb rough matter. Airy and shapeless thing, it needs the metaphor of the body, lime and appetite, the oceanic fluids. It needs the body's world, instinct, and imagination, and the dark hug of time, sweetness and tangibility to be understood, to be more than pure light that burns where no one is. So it enters us in the morning, shines from brute comfort like a stitch of lightning, and at night lights up the deep and wondrous drownings of the body like a star. This is a little booklet that my mother self-published, and it's called May I Always Know Necessary Wisdom. So I'll read a few of these pages, but I'm glad to read this here because I think it really gives you a sense of who she was, and this is very genuine. This is a very mom thing to do. So, okay. May I know that my life is in a continuous state of evolvement, and yet always within the context of the divine, which is joyful, unchanging happiness. May I know that I can always touch the ever-present invisible and ask for help. May I know that in living out roles such as mother, daughter, father, son, spouse, worker, or child, I impact and am impacted upon continuously on many complex levels. May I know that these relationships are not curable, but are there to serve my growth and allow me to love. May I know that sharing whatever wealth and substance I have is requisite decency and courtesy among and throughout all of humankind. May I know that the divine is real, is God, is triumphant always. May I know that loving and trusting and understanding others yields far better results than trying to dominate others. May I know that simply being is the highest state. May I know that contemplation of the divine and asking of the divine, not for things, but for presence, is meant to be my daily occupation. May I know that mutual kindness and love will sustain people through most anything. May I know that joyous light surrounds my head at all times, penetrating every cell to the soles of my feet, if I but dare to receive this. May I know that I can turn continuously to the wisdom, power, and revelation of the divine as the source of substance and sustenance of my being. May I know that I am constantly sought, found, and treasured by my God in mystery and in all of manifestation.
Thank you, Ellen. Kathy Okeisen, beloved and loyal friend of Carla's, will now sing Meditation on Breathing, which she would sing regularly with Carla when she would go and visit her, and sang to her on Tuesday, 3 days before she left us.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to invite Kaki, Hitchcock, Webb, Ed, and Carla's daughter to come forward and share some thoughts.
We are here today to honor and to celebrate the life of Carla Maxine McCabe. When I think of Carla, I think of an intuitive soul, a woman who wanted to make young and old feel apart and live in their own individuality. She was a writer, a storyteller, a daughter, mother, grandmother, wife, sister, aunt, and a friend. She had a witty way and a genuine laugh and smile. She acknowledged those around her by the gift of listening. She was born to Woody and Eunice and started her journey in Little Chute, Wisconsin, finally landing in Boston. She was the oldest sibling to Jesse, Joel, Gail, Mike, and Ann. She loved and was proud of her two daughters, Amy and Ellen, Danny and Aaron, her granddaughters Bella and Maxine, Brian, Leo, and Violet. Carla would light up reminiscing about her time with Joan, Kathy, and Pat, and in recent years, Kathy and Rita. When my dad, Ed, and Carla met, she lovingly welcomed her new extended family, myself, Susie, Ted, Heather, Dan, grandchildren Ryan, Trevor, Ben, Carson, Caroline, and Amanda, Aunt Carol, Kathy, Vinny, and Roger. A fond memory is of her cutting pictures, articles out of the newspaper and sending a handwritten note to each of the grandchildren as to why it reminded her of them. My dad and Carla married at South Church on 10/11/12 and created a loving home together in Portsmouth. They appreciated and were invested in their time at South Church. Carla loved the music and the enrichment this church provided to all. I remember Christmas Eve services with Carla and my dad. The boys even lit the chalice one year. I remember Carla greeting all with a kind smile and recognition. Through the years of knowing Carla, she would share with me her spiritual understanding. So to that, Carla, I recognize your light, your calm and intertwined strong presence, and your next life knowing. This Buddhist prayer by Thich Nhat Hanh resonates with me and reminds me of words you might utter, Carla. Being peace. If we are peaceful, if we are happy, we can smile and blossom like a flower, and everyone in our family, our entire society will benefit from our peace. I love you, and your presence will remain with all whose lives you have touched.
Thank you, Kaki. I'd like to invite Amy and Ellen, Amy Pellegrini and Ellen Joan Caras, Carla's daughters, forward. Amy has some thoughts to share on behalf of both of them.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you all for coming. As many of you may know, I am petrified of public speaking, hence my big sister here. But I decided I needed to take on the responsibility of writing and reading this eulogy for my mom as a way to honor her personal bravery, acknowledge all that she has been and done for me throughout my lifetime, and most importantly, out of respect for her belief that all things need to be fair between siblings. And my sister already did our father's eulogy, so according to Mom's strict fairness policy, it is my turn. I also decided to honor my mom today by not using ChatGPT to edit her eulogy, as my mother was the actual original human version of ChatGPT and my lifelong editor-in-chief. She taught me everything I know today about writing and editing. My mom was an editor extraordinaire and could salvage just about any mediocre writing with her naturally keen editorial skills. She saved me on numerous occasions with major writing deadlines, that I had procrastinated doing, or helping me to write a winning cover letter when applying for jobs. I felt I had finally arrived in this world sometime in my early 40s when I sent my mom a copy of a cover letter for her to edit. And for the first time in my whole life, all my mom wrote back was, "It's great, I wouldn't change a thing." This was the ultimate gold star that gave me a boost of my lifetime. My mom can also be credited for me graduating high school when at the age of 48, she pulled an all-nighter with me as my co-writer and editor for my high school senior thesis paper. I had been given an entire year to write this, but instead I started writing it at 9 p.m. the night before it was due. Despite my mom skipping an entire night of sleep to help me with this paper, she didn't even get mad at me and went off to work that morning saying, "I love you, honey," just as sweetly as every other day. If you ask me, I believe this is more than enough evidence that my mom had the patience of a saint. Throughout our entire childhood, Mom was patient, understanding, encouraging, and accepting of us as individuals, each with our own big personality. As a sister duo, our frequently mischievous behavior would not be met by Mom with anger or consequences, but rather by sheer wonderment, and she would calmly and sincerely ask, "What am I going to do with you two?" At other times, she would just recite the Hail Mary to keep her cool. We grew accustomed to these calm and predictable responses of Mom's. But once, when she discovered us in the dining room, racing around the dining room table on our banana seat bikes and swiping at the drapes, she finally shouted at us. We were so surprised that we hit the brakes. And then my sister, in all seriousness, asked her, "What happened to the Hail Mary?" This was a story my mother greatly enjoyed sharing with us and laughing about later in life. Our mom not only tolerated our precociousness, but she purposely taught us to be independent thinkers, feelers, and doers. She believed that teaching us to be these things would allow us to develop intellectually, emotionally, and socially, and in turn develop a greater sense of our self-worth and higher self-esteem. Rather than our mom focusing her attention on domestic duties or creating and enforcing typical parental rules and expectations, she mainly focused her attention on our healthy human development. Mom chose to intentionally engage with us as complete individuals rather than just children. This created a dynamic and unique trio amongst us, rather than the typical parent-child dynamic seen in most other households. I believe the only rules we had to adhere to were being relatively self-sufficient, personally responsible, and most importantly, compassionate, generous, and respectful of others. My mom led by example and showed us to be all of these things through her daily actions. She also introduced us to the complexities of humanity by exposing us to music, books, and plays, and by taking us to see films like Harold and Maude and Being There at an unusually young ages. She taught us to be self-sufficient at a young age as well, once even giving me a little stool so I could reach the top of the washer in our apartment kitchen. My mother's compassion and generosity included her allowing our teenage friends to stay with us if they ever needed a safe and peaceful place to be, by opening our home to all during the holidays, and by giving 10% of her monthly salary to charity until she retired. Mom did not concern herself with us having lofty educational, athletic, or career goals. She deeply believed that if we instead learned to be independent, compassionate, and generous, that it would allow us to develop as complete human beings and in turn be successful in all areas of our lives. When I would complain to my mother about another person's poor behavior, she would usually try to comfort me by saying, Honey, you have to remember that they are probably behaving that way only because they are underdeveloped. My mom chose to move us at young ages to the inner city of Boston because she thought it was important for us to live in a diverse community, something she said she had missed out on when growing up in the Midwest suburbs. She also socialized us on Sundays at her best friend's Cambridge, Mass. Coffee shop, where we would converse with many free-thinking, progressive adults and were always treated like family. Not surprisingly, my mom grandparented her two granddaughters, Maxine and Bella, in the same way she parented me and Ellen, regularly giving my girls the opportunity to explore their thoughts and feelings and encouraging them to be their authentic selves and loving them unconditionally. Once, when I returned home from work while my mom was babysitting, I found the three of them busily working on something at the kitchen table. I said to my mom, "Oh, great, you were helping them with their homework." And my mom replied, "Oh, no, honey, we're free writing." I didn't find this funny at the time, but now I'm very amused by this memory. My mom would also engage my children in conversations by asking them questions about themselves and their lives. I used to call these conversations between my mom and kids as deep talks with young children. I had the good fortune of recently finding a 28-page handwritten letter from my mom to Bella and Maxine, and I will now read a small bit of that letter. We all go down many roads, some good and some not so good. But as we go down these roads, we can remember peace, love, joy, and even bliss. If we just tune into our inner being, which is always already perfect love, it is our highest job to tune into perfect love, which is there for us, despite our human trials. I feel your perfect love for me, and I know you feel mine for you. Perfect love combines and transcends human love. Okay. My mom was a deeply spiritual person. Yes. Okay. My mom was a deeply spiritual person and had a deep understanding of what it meant to be human. My mom entered and exited this lifetime with a purely gentle soul. And despite all of the many trials and tribulations she faced during this lifetime, she passed in complete peace with her two daughters by her side. And for that, will be eternally grateful. In the last 6 days of my mom's life, we were given the gifts of her meeting her great-grandson for the first time, her saying goodbye to her beloved granddaughters, and then finally with reuniting as our little dynamic trio, where it felt like no time had passed since we were Carla's girls. Having time to recall our childhood memories during these final days of my mom's life made us feel only a deeper appreciation and gratitude for being Carla's daughters, which was a true blessing. No, it's okay. Thank you, Mom, for all the unconditional love and meaningful life lessons you gave to all of us. You helped shape who I am as a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, a partner, an aunt, a cousin, a niece, a goddaughter, and a social worker. I will feel your brilliant presence and deep love in my heart and mind forever.
Thank you, Amy and Ellen, for sharing these beautiful stories, memories, reflections. Kathy Okeisen will now sing Amazing Grace as we hold the words shared and allow them to deepen in our midst. If you want to sing along, please do. If holding this moment feels more authentic by simply listening or humming along, please do.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Yea, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. The world shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun refuse to shine, but God who called me here below shall be forever mine. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Let us gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer or meditation. Spirit of life, source of love. We give thanks today for Carla, for her kindness, her patience, her fairness, her laughter, her steadfastness, her deep love for her family and friends. We give thanks for the ways she lived her values, meeting troubling behavior with wonderment more than anger, showing patience where others might find none, giving generously in so many ways. We give thanks for the way she saw everyone as whole, her children, her grandchildren, anyone she met, and for her gift of recognizing what was precious in all. Help us now carry forward her example, to live with fairness, to meet life with compassion, to laugh when we can, and to cherish one another as she cherished everyone. May Carla's love steady all who mourn. May her presence be felt in memory, in spirit, in quiet moments, and in busy days. And may the love she gave so freely continue to guide all of us, steadying, comforting, and calling us to live with compassion, with the compassion and courage that shaped her life. Let us now take a few moments of silence to reflect, to honor, perhaps to say a silent gratitude or goodbye in each of our hearts. As Carla might say, peace, Om, Da, and Amen. As I lead to the end of our service with the closing words, I want to lift up to you, it's in your order of service that Carla's family is inviting everyone to join them for a luncheon to share memories of Carla. It will begin at 1 p.m. at Waterview Grill. That's 37 Bow Street in Portsmouth, about a 5-minute walk from here, and it's in your order of service. Also, as the postlude plays, I would like to invite any family or close friends of Carla who would like to walk out with me to take a little bit of a breath before greeting everyone at the reception. So I invite you to choose whether you want to walk out with me or stay and listen to the postlude. Our closing words, Erat Hora by Ezra Pound. Thank you, whatever comes. And then she turned, and as the ray of sun on hanging flowers fades when the wind has lifted them aside, went swiftly from me. Nay, whatever comes, 1 hour was sunlit, and the Most High Gods may not make boast of any better thing than to have watched that hour as it passed.